Welcome everybody to Bobby Talks. ... Those dots are there to tell you that there's always more to the story. And today's story is, well, a hodgepodge of furniture. Let me get this correct. A hodgepodge of, make sure I understand this, of modern furniture and antiques. Is that correct, Sergio?
Yes, and from here on out, we could refer to it as hodgepodge because I literally said no one's gonna want to say that 1,000 times when talking to me.
Dude, no worries, man. I actually really like it, and I think it fits the EP pretty well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here with Sergio Anello. He is the bassist from the band, The Early November. He is hailing right now from New Jersey. He said it is a gloomy day there, but it has cooled down. So my man has got his hat on. He's got the shades on. He's rocking. He's looking good. We're sitting here with Sergio Anello. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really good. I'm hanging in there. I'm having a good time. It's a Monday for some reason. It always feels like the next day to me, so it feels like a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Is
for
that
sure.
weird? I don't
For
know.
sure. No, I'm the same way. You were talking about the weather, man. It's been kind of crazy here. We've had like a heat wave that went through for, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 days straight. But every time it seems to rain, it rains in dumps where it just leaves so much rain for like, I don't know, 20-minute periods. And then it just goes away and we're back to sun. It's just been almost like Florida weather. It's been kind of crazy.
So with us, it gets so extremely hot that they like call for rain all week, and then it makes it miserable because it is summertime. Like you want to plan and do stuff, etc. And then you're like, I'm not going to do nothing tomorrow because it's supposed to rain. And then it's like sunny all day, and it rains at like, 9:45 at night. It'll downpour for 15 minutes, and then you're done. So
Yeah.
it's been up and down, but I like the heat. I'll never complain about the heat. I'm not a cold person.
Me either. I don't know what New Jersey falls are like. I mean, ours are beautiful. We love fall here, but I can do fall, summer, but that's the extent for me.
Fall doesn't exist. It's like my favorite season. Like I'm like, oh, it's October and I got like, my favorite Starbucks or whatever. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's dead of winter and I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Like within
You don't see the
one
sun again
jump.
for like 6 months. It feels like it just goes bye bye.
It's rough. This last year's winter was rough because we had a lot of snow, which is odd. Or it's been odd, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But it was a ton of snow and it felt like a long winter, and the next thing we knew it was like summer. There's no like gradual change. It's just
I know.
very quick.
I'm okay with that because spring is always wet and I mow grass, so sometimes it's nice to just be able to. As soon as I can get the winter coat off, I'm on the lawnmower, so that's kind of nice too. But
Of
enough about the
course.
weather, man. I'm sitting here with Sergio Anello. Like I said, he's the bassist of the band The Early November, but he's also been working on some solo projects, and that's kind of what we're here to do today to talk about is some of his solo projects. Sergio, I said it at the beginning of the show here, a hodgepodge of modern furniture and antiques. This is a 5-song EP, is that correct?
Yes. So this is my third release in my solo adventures.
Okay.
And to sum it up in short terms, prior to the whole pandemic, I had got a record deal through a fantastic indie label called Sunday Drive Records.
Okay.
And we had all these plans, and then the pandemic hit, and we still managed to put out a vinyl record, which came out. I want to say, I could be totally off, but I want to say it was April of 2021. Maybe I'm totally off. At this point, I can't remember time,
Everything is
but
kind of blurring together. Yeah.
it's blurring together. I think it might have been May. Don't quote me, but I got very excited to tour and do stuff like that with it and play shows. And unfortunately, that was least issues with what was going on, globally. So like, I don't want to sound like I was complaining. It
Right.
just, things kind of didn't happen the way we expected. So in the midst of the whole pandemic thing, I got stir crazy like everyone else, and I started to write. And I was like, I'm just going to release like a bunch of phone demos that I make at home, like in the bathroom, straight to my phone, acoustic songs. And it ended up spawning into like a full production record,
Okay.
or EP, but there was never more than two people in a room at the same time. None of the musicians that played on it, aside from myself and my buddy Kyle, who was the recording engineer, and I did it at his home studio. We're ever together, which was crazy. I've never recorded anything like that. And
Everything was
for a
remote.
guy like, yes. So like originally the idea started out with me and a good friend of mine. His name's Brandon Rosenberg. And I was like, look, dude, I want to like put these little things out. Maybe you could like add a guitar or some keys or whatever. And then he got his drummer, Rob Bowman, involved. And the next thing I know, we were like, well, we don't know what this is. Like, what could this really turn into?
Right.
And my very close old friend Kyle was like, earlier in the pandemic, basically reached out to me about just future recordings. He was like, if you need any help with anything or want to get together, we should. And at that time, we thought the pandemic was like a week-long thing. Like, we'll wait this week out, we'll talk, and whatever. But I reached out to him and basically went to his house. We re-recorded all these like demo ideas that I had. We used these bits and pieces that were coming in. He had a couple friends out of Chicago that he worked with that sent in pieces, and it was just it was a crazy way to go about it. But I'm so proud of it because in the time that it was made, it didn't seem like it would come about.
Sergio, so what's that like then when you're doing something remote like that, where you don't get that instant feedback when you're sitting in a room with people and you're building, you're trying to, you're vibing, but not just vibing, but like you guys are actually working, constructing a song, putting it together. You can kind of be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and then 30 seconds later, they can either showcase that they can kind of visual or pull off what you're visualizing in your head. Um, in this case, when you're doing something remotely, it's like there's time that goes by. What's that kind of like when you're doing something remotely versus doing? I mean, it had to be frustrating, or was it something else? Did it give you guys a chance to like say, yeah, that's exactly what I was hearing in my head?
It's kind of a lot of everything you just said, and I'm very particular and specific when it comes to like my solo stuff. So,
Okay.
for instance, with me, like I'm a trained bass player, but not like I write songs and I know what I want to hear. But if there's something I can't physically do, I have a good way about me of like explaining to someone that's lack of better terms, just better at it than me, how to
Right.
do it.
Right.
And in this situation, you know, you you got these little bits and pieces, and weirdly they became like these very important puzzle pieces to the songs.
Okay.
And it'd be like a song where I had like a total idea of how I wanted it to go, but it wasn't until I got this like little puzzle piece that I figured out not only how to like piece the entire song together, but then, which I was, not to toot my own horn, was very proud of myself, was kind of forced to play a lot of stuff on my own,
Okay.
um, which made me, better at a lot of instruments that I wouldn't consider myself too great at to begin with. But, it definitely, it was a learning experience, and it was a patience thing,
Right.
like very, very patient, which I'm not good at. So like, someone like his name's Kyle Koenig. He's a wonderful dude, long term friend. He is he, he was like that kind of like rock to the situation really made it, I wouldn't say easy to go about it, but made it easier to like stick with it instead of just kind of write it off like this will never happen.
Yeah, that's got to be interesting to just see how you adapt to that environment versus how some of your other your partners in that process. I would say that the older I get, the more impatient I get as a person, which is okay.
Yeah.
Totally okay. I
Yeah,
uh,
of
I
course.
think that's kind of like the rite of passage there, but no, I was just trying to figure out because you said it off camera here. We were talking about a little bit of the anxiety that you have as a person and how you approach life. I would just bringing it back to COVID, and bringing it back to that time is great on one side where you had kind of like the gift of time to do some of these things that maybe when you're doing the normal day to day grind without a pandemic going on, you might not have found the time to do. But in this case, you got the gift of time. But how does someone who has the challenges of anxiety in a COVID, do you and you're trying to make a solo project or you're trying to produce something that you think is of your caliber, how did you adapt or I guess how did you work with those types of challenges as well?
I think with me, it's a moment to moment sort of thing. Like I'm very strategic in the sense like if I'm working, a 9 to 9 sales job while planning to go on tour with the early November and then like moving at the same time, like I could figure that out.
Right.
But you give me too much time, and it's kind of detrimental because I sit there and I overanalyze and I
Okay.
go like stir crazy. So with this, it was very much like how I always do. I write what I'm feeling at the moment and I figure out what I want to like put together if I'm going to put out a project or a collection of songs. But this was very much inspired by like what I was genuinely feeling through a year plus timeline. And then to think like I try to encapsulate that in like this 15-minute blurb.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and and if I'm being honest, like I didn't go into it like this is how it goes, but it's so weird that the end result, to me at least, I go, well, if I had to look back in time, that's it. Like that's totally it. It,
So
it
did you
felt
feel
good.
you like it then? You're very happy with the final product?
100%. And like I'm always proud of what I do. I won't put out something that like I have doubts about. But genuinely I look at this one and I go like, man, I've never like thought I would just pull something like that out of my back pocket and you know, maybe no one likes it, whatever, if they hear it and they hate it, but like I could at least sit back and go like I'm really content with this.
I can speak. You have one fan in me for sure, man. I toxic
Thank you.
positivity is something that I really connect with a lot. I'm not sure how much you're putting out there of your music yet. Have you dropped? When is this EP going to come out?
So this is you're actually the I guess technically you're breaking it.
Oh, I'm breaking
It's we're
breaking
gonna
news. Bobby talks.
yeah we're gonna release the news like social media wise and stuff like that September 7th,
Okay.
and the record I believe is coming out the 17th. We're gonna have physical copies with CDs, which is something like we didn't think we were gonna do,
Okay.
but I'm so psyched on like the packaging and the artwork, just all in all. Um, but yeah, it comes out September 17th on Sunday Drive Records. It's I think a very easy listen.
Oh
You got
yeah,
to
for
write
sure.
stuff nowadays for that like attention deficit mind like myself that can't like look at anything for too long. Um, but yeah, I'm super psyched on it.
Well, congratulations on that, man. Like, how many more songs are you adding to it with the full record?
So this one's just going to be the 5 songs. I
Okay.
already actually started demoing out the next batch of things, which I never really know what it's going to be till it is what it is.
Right.
Prior to that, I have a record that, like I said, came out during the pandemic called No Heavier Burden. If you go on my Bandcamp or Spotify or Apple Music, all those things you could listen to. And then prior to connecting with Sunday Drive Records, I put out my first solo thing, which is pretty different to all my current stuff,
Yeah.
under the name Everyone Knows. And then I re released it under my name just so it would be easy to find.
Fine. More of a branding thing. Help me understand that.
Yes.
What is the idea behind putting a different moniker on something? What was the is it trying to rebrand yourself from the early November, or is it more of like a creative route that you're trying to take? I mean, what's the reason for that?
I think to be honest, it was like a lack of knowledge how to like promote yourself at the time. And then
Right.
also that same thought, like you had just mentioned, like people know me for what they know me of with the band. And I didn't want them to have this like preconceived notion of what I would sound like. And I
Okay.
think, although, obviously I'm proud of and love everything I've done with the early November, I think what I'm doing is is pretty far from maybe what people would expect me to put out. So originally I was doing this like jazz punk bluesy thing, and then it slowly like for live aspect was like forced into more of like a folky aspect. And then I started writing around like maybe I won't have a full band to play with, or I won't have like the horns and the strings, which isn't like an easy thing to reproduce on a day-to-day basis. um so I started writing more like folky, and then just like anything in life, my travels, my experiences, it kind of like navigated where I was going.
Yeah.
So
I
that was the whole other name.
I how difficult though is it to when you are, so well known for one thing, and then to try to reinvent yourself as this other thing? Like, I guess the question where I want to take it is do you obviously you want it to be successful? That's that whole idea of it. But
Of
like,
course, of
what if it
course.
becomes this something that's so successful that it confronts, kind of like Justin Timberlake in NSYNC, right? You become bigger than where you originally started. Is that the idea? Is it just to kind of get another outlet of who you are? Because the way you started off in early 2000s with the early November, you guys, you were in that kind of that emo type of realm, right? Well, what you're doing
Yeah,
right now is not that. It's a different thing altogether, right? So,
I think it's just if anything, it's natural growth. So with Euro November, I was you know an energetic stage performing bass player, which is who I am. You
right.
know, but when you break down, at least to me, like solo music and like personal aspects of your life, it's going to be very different than who you are on stage or with a group. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Everybody's going to kind of have these different ideas of what they enjoy personally, or like what they're going through and what they want to write about. And with Your Own November, I was always, I guess maybe how I would explain it, like a support to a bigger thing.
Okay.
With this, it's although I have tons of support, this is
It's
like
it's all
me
you.
laid out on the table,
Yeah.
you know. And I think people know, if they know of me, they see me for what they think I was on stage or like in my personal life. But the reality of it is, if I was that guy in normal life, I'd be in jail or dead. Like it was just chaos. It's entertainment. You buy a ticket to come to a show. I would get amped up and want to play and entertain people. Now
Dude.
I'm speaking my truth. You know what I mean?
Hey, it's a
It's
whole
a little
different.
different.
Yeah, it is a little different. But I was listening to your guest appearance on Dana Bolin of 2 Weeks Notice podcast. If you haven't heard it, go
Love
check it out.
Dana.
He's a buddy of mine that we met on a cruise of all things. Him and his twin brother Maddie, who I guess is absolutely obsessed with the early November. That's his favorite band. We were texting
Yeah,
back
I
and
said
forth, and he was telling me that.
I sent them a bunch of like stuff. I mean, I haven't met, maybe I met Maddie like at shows prior, but like Dana and me, like, we'll be
Dude,
like
yeah.
talking. It'll be like 2 in the morning on a Saturday. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, just shooting the shit. It's cool.
Dana is so chill, man. When I first met this guy, I was carrying around a pretty expensive camera around my neck, and I didn't know him. I was on the cruise, and I was just like, I had to go do something or grab something out of my like lower or my I don't know, my not really
Your
my heart,
bunk.
my bunk. Yeah, I was in the bottom. If you were at the
Yeah.
Titanic level, I was in the very bottom. So I don't know what you call it. It wasn't quite a room. It was more of a bunk. But I had to go grab
Cruise
something
rooms
out.
are very tight. I know. I've
Exactly,
been on
dude.
them.
Good. I'm glad you know because it wasn't a room. It was definitely a bunk. But I had to
No,
go
it's
grab
a,
something out of my bunk, and I went up to this guy, and I just thought he looked trustworthy. I was like, "Hey, do you mind watching my camera?" And you talk about anxiety. He said that he sat there for the next 20 minutes, just like not taking his eyes off of my camera because he was so worried about why the
that's
hell
a
this
really
was
good, though.
recording.
That's a good description of him. Like, trustworthy stranger. That
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Like, that's
yeah.
a compliment, though. You can't say that about a lot of people.
No,
By
you
no
can't.
means.
You can't. And that was the thing. And to be honest with you, it was probably just dumb luck. But I was like, "Hey, dude, you mind watching his camera?" So that's
and
how I
and
met
now
this
here
guy.
we are.
I was listening though to your episode, and I guess he was talking about how, or you would get to a venue early and figure out how you can like up your game, um, and how you can like do the entertainment quality that you're talking about. Like, what's some of the strangest, or not strangest, but the most dangerous thing that you've done, so to speak, on a stage that you might look back now and at this stage in life and be like, man, that was dumb.
All of it. Look, I'm a 37-year-old, like still very active, but like hurting body. And,
Sure.
I think back at things we did then and I just go like, how ridiculously, not only stupid, but just like someone else could have got hurt. If I got
Yeah.
hurt, least of my worries. Like,
Right.
the amount of people that are like, dude, you like busted my head and I thought it was awesome. And I'm like, what do I say to that? Like, it's not a proud moment where I'm like, rock and roll. I'm like, what a dickhead I was. It's like, but that's not how a young mind thinks. You're like adrenaline based. You want to like, you're sitting alone on tour basically for 10, 15 hours a day, depending where you're driving from, where you're going. And then
Sure.
you get somewhere and it's like you want to go to bed by the time you go on stage, but it's that amped feeling and that adrenaline that comes with a 22-year-old's mind and body that
Yeah.
you don't have at 37.
I know you have a much better perspective now for sure. I mean, I can tell you
Of
just like being
course.
in the crowd though, what those moments do. You talk about how you call yourself a dick when in reality, when I see someone do something crazy like that on the stage, that is just feeling, because music you feel, it's all in the body,
Of
right?
course.
And that's the thing, is that just as a spectator in the crowd, when I'm already having a good time, having a good vibe, but when I see you hype up to another level, it brings me to another level, and that's just and it has like this chain reaction throughout the entire crowd, and that's some of the most special experiences that you can never never get never duplicate, I
And
guess.
here's the thing, like if I got on stage tomorrow, what I mean by like being a dick is like I'm going to have that same intensity. Like
Right.
I'm going to feel it a lot more, but I'm going to have that same thing. The difference is like I'm not going to look for the 15-foot balcony and say like I'm going to jump feet first off of it and hope that I get caught.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
because you have more of this I don't know if you would call it like a fatherly instinct or I'm not a dad, but like, an adult vibe about you. Like, you don't want to knock out some 17-year-old kid that it's their first show.
Yeah, they worked hard at McDonald's all week to get the money to come see your show, and you just knocked them out his ass.
Anything. I mean, I don't want to go out and get kicked in the face. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, I'm a lot more aware of myself and more
Sure.
judgmental that if I, God forbid, hurt somebody, I would not let myself live it down.
Yeah, yeah. No, it makes sense, man. It
you
makes
know,
sense. So,
so
well, nowadays, I mean, you guys, the early November, I was looking on Spotify. You guys have over 150,000 view or followers each month. If you hit somebody in
that's
the,
so weird.
isn't that crazy to hear though?
Yeah, especially in like today's day and age where, you know, now I feel like if the next kid came out and had a popular song,
Mhm.
they would be let down by whatever our following is. Do you know what I mean? Like they'd be like, I
Get what
didn't hit it.
I get what you're saying, but that's not like you guys are. I was thinking about this today when when I knew we were going to be talking, um, and I was kind of going over my head some of the things that I would bring to the table, because I am not by any means do I have a musical background in anything, but I love music, right? And
Yeah.
one thing I just had a couple weeks ago, I had a buddy of mine who was down in the punk rock scene down in Gainesville for a long time, and we were talking about,
Gainesville's sick.
dude, he said there was a nice following down there for sure. But what he loved about it, and
Super
this is
sick.
something that I'm gonna ask you, I guess, is like, with the kind of music that you're doing and that you've done, it's not necessarily about that breakthrough, becoming that breakthrough star that hits that one hit wonder that gets through the main waves globally through everybody. There's something unique about like hitting the diehard music fan, you know what I mean, and having them follow you wherever you go. Of course, you want to put it in front of as many people as you possibly can and have them like it because everybody wants that. You're creating a piece of art. You want people to like your art, but it's almost in this world of the kind of music that you guys make. It's almost okay that only a handful full of people grab it because then it makes you guys a counterculture to something, and that in its own right is an exclusive club that's really cool to be a part of. Did I kind of
Look,
sum that up
I
all right?
yes, because I agree with everything you're saying. Like our success was always like a cult fan base. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we had a little bit of like play on MTV too because like the time was right. You know what I mean? And we had some label support with it and stuff like that. A lot of label support and a lot of just right place, right time. But the band has only been a band this long because people supported it. Like
Right.
we never had a single where I'm like, hey man, I never have to work again because yada yada really hit in 2004 and now I'm good to just hang out. Like it was never about that. Like even to today, like even though I'm not currently touring with the band, I wouldn't go on tour for the money. Like,
Right.
no disrespect to the band or whatever, but it's just like the money's not what anyone of my age in the real world goes like, well, this is a safe bet. And,
Right.
now I could go on vacation for the next 9 months. Like, it doesn't
Or
exist like that. Like,
live in
we,
the basement of the Atlanta Falcons stadium there and wait 2 weeks to put out your album. Like
I
Kanye
mean,
West. Have you heard this craziness?
no, I was just going to say, who's this?
Kanye West, he did a whole watch party where he played all his music and everybody loved it. They were digging it. And then he said, I'm not going to release it for another 2 weeks because it needs to be polished in the very Kanye West fashion. And then that 2 weeks got pushed back to a month. And then he said, okay, well, to get this right, I have to bunker myself down into the stadium basement of where the Atlanta Falcons play. And it's just this whole thing. But what he's doing is he's building a demand for his product. And whether or not he's
Look,
annoying people along the way, he's doing it successfully. So
would that be my approach? Probably not, even if I had that level of fame. But the reality of it is, you get that large, you
right.
could do and, you know, unfortunately say sometimes whatever you want.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm kind of like, not kind of, I'm completely happy that I'm level headed with where maybe I could have went if I did find some sort of legitimate fame at that age,
sure.
because I don't think it makes you, a healthy adult. Now, I'm not saying that about Kanye West or anybody at that level. I'm saying like me personally, I would have not functioned in the way that I barely am even at this point if I didn't have those like slow progressions and ups and downs. So like it's weird. It's a double-edged sword. Everybody wants fame and success in if you're putting all this work into something, but I think things are going to happen how they're going to happen. And you know, you gotta not only make do with what you're getting back, but like learn from it,
Right.
and to
Yeah.
some extent enjoy it.
Dude, that's the key right there, right? Is that there's not enough people stopping and enjoying what they're doing right now. Like I'll admit, like sometimes I lose perspective of what the purpose of me doing this show was because I'm so constantly trying to find another guest and I'm constantly trying to book guests that I think might fit the bill of what I'm looking to talk about and whatnot. And as I'm doing that, I'm kind of stopping or I'm forgetting to stop and enjoy the moment. It's not until I actually sit down, turn the camera on, and I'm sitting here with you, Sergio, in this moment. And I'm like, this is pretty fucking cool. Like, I'm really glad
Of
to be sitting here with
course,
Sergio Anello. Like, I really, really appreciate you being here, man.
it's well, one, thank you, and I mean I agree with you. It's hard to embrace the moment, especially like I sound like an old fuddy duddy saying this, but like when we came up, and I was like getting these opportunities and doing things like I genuinely was like, wow, my life like feels really cool and this is insane. And then there was definitely these moments where like, you take it for granted. And now I think about it and I'm like, everything is so split second gratification. Like, I feel bad for people that like don't know what that other side is like.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, dude.
I've witnessed it, make that you download a song, and I talked about this with like Dana and a million other people. Like, it takes 4 hours to get one song you want to listen to.
And then when
Nuts.
you,
Or like
no, go
you
ahead. I
want a
was just gonna,
DVD,
yeah, yep.
you got to go buy it or wait till it comes out or hope the store you're at has it. Like, that doesn't
And
exist anymore.
and you know what? It's funny because if you were to talk to a kid today, they would say, "Well, why do I want that to exist?" Here's the difference. There's the whole process, right, of getting the thing that you crave. And what that does is
Yeah,
that it builds.
it's the hunt. The
Oh,
hunt.
it's the hunt, man. And that's such a big thing. That's such a big part of it because you work for it. Like you said, you had to get down and download the thing that took forever because of the dial up network. But the moment you had it, you played that song on a loop for hours or if not
Of
weeks because
course.
it worked. You had to work for it. I mean, I'm a huge movie buff, Sergio. I don't know about you, but like I went to school for TV, film, and radio to start off my college career before I ever decided to go be a teacher. And
Nice.
I remember the days of like waiting, you know, after they left the theaters, I had to wait like 6 months for these things to come out on DVD. And then finally they came out on DVD. I had to go and I had to wait in line over at Sam Goody's or wherever it was to get these types of things.
That's a
It
big
just
thing that we don't realize anymore.
Yeah, and the thing that's special about it is it builds community. You know, you talk with your friends about the hype of like I can't wait for this to come out. It builds something that you guys can share. Where today there's just so many things we don't share anything anymore, and
Yeah, like for instance, I'm a big like horror movie fan, right? And I'll be like, hey TV, what is the newest horror movies out? And then it gives it to me and I'm like, you kidding me? I gotta spend $6 on this? And I'm like bummed. But it's there. You know what I mean? It's
exactly yeah.
it's it's a button away.
I know. And well, I'm a theater guy. I'm a purist. So like if I have HBO Max and they've been doing this thing this year where they'll drop it on the streaming app the same day that it comes out in theater, I won't. I'll go to the theater and watch it if I want to watch it. I won't watch it on the streaming
See,
platform.
I'm like one of the I mean, you know, this year made me I say this openly, very weird because
Okay.
situation I was in, I was just like a lot of people, were doing stuff and whatever, and that's cool. Like, but I was back home off a tour, basically being like, I'm gonna live here until I move out in a couple months, and then, or maybe go back on tour, whatever I'm gonna do. Like, I don't want to have any kind of roots settled in or like financial roots.
Right.
And then all this hit, and it was like a scary situation. Um, my parents aren't like, if you met them, you wouldn't be like, oh, you have like old parents. But at 60 something,
Oh,
they were worried, and it was worrisome. So like, I didn't do the like movie theater, the this, the that, the nothing. So like, now I'm kind of, and I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but like now I'm like set back to some extent where I'm like, do I want to do these things anymore? Did I ever? Like, it's a weird thing to jump back into. And I'm slowly getting there. But, like, to my point, it's much easier to be like, this is on TV? Cool. I could order this over the phone? Cool. I don't have to talk to anybody if I want something? Great. Like,
you're
you
right
know,
for that. For those reasons, you're right. It's absolutely been great for that.
like I'm just as guilty. You know what I mean?
I blame you, Sergio. I blame you, dog.
Yeah.
I That's interesting though. Where are you at right now with the level of, I guess, your personal concern with COVID? Because is early November? I'm not familiar with. Are they on tour right now?
No, no, no. So,
Like,
I mean, as
Sergio, sorry,
far,
would they tour without you, or is that not even in the question?
yeah, so it's been over the past handful of years. Like, we have and have always had our like core members
Okay.
who started the band together, who have always been together, but a common respect that if one of us can't do it or doesn't want to do it or whatever it might be, like there's no grudges, there's no like resentment. It's very much like, hey, this is happening. Love to have you, but like if you can't do it, totally get it, whatever. And like we've gone through those phases a million times now. So like this is not new to that. I know there was things in place at a certain point and everything kind of shifted. So I kind of hear about them as they come. I don't like, I'm not like one to be like, yeah, we got this set up. Like I'm not breaking any kind of cool new news,
Right,
but
right.
we always stay in touch with each other. Like we're very close. At the end of the day, like if I needed any one of those guys for anything, they'd be right there. And I hope they know like same deal with me. But everybody's just older now. They have their own responsibilities. They're doing their own things, and like I said, we still are very much in communication, just like how you would with any old friend. Like it's
Right.
not it's not like
It's
every day like what's the deal with this or that. It's just we check in. We love each other.
yeah, and
We're
it's
brothers.
unfortunately it's probably fewer and farther between than you would probably like, but at least you still have that
Of
when you
course.
want it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's not like oh, I feel weird to hit this person up. It's just kind of like I said, everybody's unfortunately busy with normal life things,
Life.
and then
Yep.
you add business and personal families and children and blah blah blah. Like out of everybody, I'm probably I don't want to say the least like responsible. I just mean like I don't have kids or a wife, so
Right.
it's
Right. Right.
a little bit easier for me to come and go as I
I'm in
please.
that same boat, man. Like I'm not
You
doing
know,
anything quite like you're doing, but like, being out here, I'm kind of that bachelor where I don't have the domesticated life, so to speak, where every time I look around, my friends seem to be having that. If not, it's continuing to happen. So yeah, I get it, man. But for me, because of that, transitioning kind of to my mental health, you know, I have grandparents. My best friend in the world is my grandfather, and he's well into
good
his
for you.
80s.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but he's well into his 80s. So when COVID hit, I was the same as you. I kind of hunkered down, took it real serious. Not that I'm not necessarily taking it serious now, but like I am a little bit more free to explore now since they've got the vaccine, and it feels like, and I've already had it specifically, and I saw what it
Oh
was
wow,
like,
all right.
and I came out on the other side. So I kind of have, I'm like, I have the antibodies. I feel like, okay, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's made me ignorant. I don't know. Point is that for my mental health, I feel like I have to venture outside of the four walls of my house because at night they're so quiet. You know what I mean? That I have to stay active because I don't have that domesticated lifestyle. So like, I don't know where
I
you're at with that. Are you more of an introvert, extrovert? Are you okay with being at home?
I think I'm the most extroverted introvert, if that makes sense. When it was all like happening, like in the thick, I saw the same, five people daily, and we were living together, not doing anything. Um, but we all got vaccinated. You know what I mean? And what sucked, and like I'm a big advocate for like mental health. If someone cares to talk to me about it, you know what I mean? I'm not like I don't want to use the term like preaching, but I'm not like outwardly speaking on it unless like someone cares to hear my point of view.
Sure.
But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got very weird. Like it was a struggle at one point to like go drive down the street and walk into like a convenience store. Like it was just like uneasy, like panic attacks, this, that, the other. And I talk about this because I'm not like ashamed or embarrassed with it, but like I know there's a lot of people that maybe would never, even admit to it. And like I really, really went through it. And I think to your point of like needing to like safely get back into it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've slowly been doing it and like just like silly things like that I would have never questioned before, like oh, driving an hour away and not like worrying about something or whatever. Like it's coming back, and it's a nice feeling, but it's still like, it's a day to day. Like I could be fine, right now, and tomorrow, like the wind blows and I get this like wave of
Right.
uncomfortability,
Right.
so I feel for everyone that knows what that feeling's like. And I think it's amazing for people that have never like even dabbled in that thought. Like I wish.
Yeah, it's because you have huge empathy. Um, but the thing with that is that I guess the challenge is that right now I feel for everyone because of I guess the uncertainty of information, right? It feels like it doesn't matter. I'm not even trying to bring this to politics, even though it is what drives this, right? It's this
Of
idea that
course.
it's been used, on both sides against each other when we, the people, just want straight factual information that we can dive or kind of sink our teeth into and kind of figure out which direction to go with this. Do we go outside? Do we stay inside? Do we mask? Do we not mask? Vaccinate or not get vaccinated? And I guess maybe America in a nutshell is it really does boil down to you and yours and how you feel about, your particular, how you want your lifestyle to be and whatnot. It's just been very difficult to put one foot in front of the other when you get this kind of tidal wave of misinformation. I feel for everyone because
I,
of it.
I mean, I agree with you. Like, I think, probably for the first time in my life, like, even though I've seen and witnessed things and maybe like didn't particularly like see it on my own end or directly inward, like felt this massive like divide of and like crazy conversations with people you would like never think to have those conversations with.
Yeah.
And I think with me, like anything I've ever done, I'm very opinionated, but I don't need to always preach my opinion. And I say this all the time, the only thing worse than an opinion is an uneducated opinion. So if I'm not as educated as I should be,
Right.
I just don't talk about it. Like the world isn't lacking something from my inability to give that opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like we talk one on one and it's very like, what do you feel about this? I'll tell you, and that's that. But like you said, like it's a personal thing. We're vaccinated. We At the end of the day, like my family's always going to be the most important thing to me. I'm going to do everything I can to keep those people like happy and healthy. And also like I pride myself just not being a piece of shit. So like I'm never going to want someone to feel uncomfortable with not only my views, but like my inability to like see where they're coming from. Does that make sense?
No, it does 100%, man. 100%. But like I
You know?
said, to start kind of my little preach there was that it's because you have empathy. You know,
Yeah.
it's we have to have that in a civilized society with so many different opinions and so many different uneducated opinions. It's just been
That's it.
yeah. I don't know, man. I'm with you, buddy. I think I just want everybody to stay healthy and continue on. And I don't like the idea of pushing fear on people, but I also want to make sure that everybody takes it and at the same time can educate themselves and do what's best for them and theirs. And like you said, not be
Piece of shit.
a piece of shit
Like,
because we all have
look, at
to.
the end of the day,
We're
I
all
think if people
neighbors.
are just genuinely kind or try to be, it goes a lot further than like preaching their views. Would it like, I get it. If you really feel that way and you want to educate people on things, like, that's cool. That's your prerogative. But like, doesn't take a lot to just be nice.
Right. Right. Be nice is over or is underrated, and
Yeah.
it's not done enough. So totally agree, man.
Yeah.
Sergio, I want to ask you a question, man. Since you're doing
Shoot.
stuff on the music level, why the hell is music so damn special? Vague question.
I mean,
Why? Why? I mean, I know what my answer is. I want to hear it from somebody who's lived, breathed, and been on it. Where you're on the performing side of things. Why? Why does it? What does it do to you personally, man?
because I think for me personally, like, you could be like, oh, well, this is my profession, or this is like what I do artistically, or whatever you want to call it. But I think at the end of the day, like, it's human.
Yeah.
It's a human feeling. Like, you could listen to a song and feel a certain way, or not, or it makes you feel better, or it's company when you're like, sad and hurting. Like, it's a million different things. Like, you can't really judge art or what its purpose is, but if it makes you feel anything whatsoever, I think it's a plus. Um, I think it's always going to be there. You know, it's a shame, unfortunately, that it to some extent like can't be financially. I say this all the time, and this is a big thing. You put this much effort into any sort of trade or career and still have the willingness to do it wholeheartedly with no return, that's a big thing.
Right.
You would never in a million years, and I'm not knocking or saying any of these professions in a negative way, but like, you would never go bartend for free. You
Right.
would never wait tables for free, do construction, be a doctor, a lawyer. But this, you would.
In a heart. Yeah, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
And I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I say that because I want people maybe to understand that, like, yeah, if you had a local pizza place that gave out as many samples as you wanted a day and it was your favorite place to eat and they were all free,
Right.
you would go there every day and be fulfilled.
Every
But
day.
eventually that place would not exist. And that's
You're
like a
right.
sad, that's a sad thing. You know what I mean? So, like, not to get heavy, it's just, I don't think people realize it. I think they think a lot more comes with, like, well, this guy's been doing it for, or this girl or whomever for 20 something years. Like, they're good. Like, they don't need that kind of support. And it's like, it's not even a financial support. It's like
Right.
reposting it, downloading it, you name it. It goes a long way. So I think people are just, I don't want this to come off wrong, just sometimes are uneducated on what makes it able for people to continue to like do this sort of thing.
Yeah, and I
You
think
know,
there's this common misconception with longevity must equal financial freedom, right?
Mm-mm. I call it glutton for punishment.
That's a great way of looking at it, brother.
100%. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because when I started the conception of this show at the earliest stages, I was, and that's what I meant earlier by like losing perspective is that I, I just want to sit down and have a conversation with someone. You know, it doesn't matter if it gets huge or doesn't. I mean, obviously, you dream about who you might be able to talk with if it was to get to
Of
certain levels.
course.
But like at the same time, to me, this is the dream. Like, and I'll do it forever. It doesn't matter if I get paid for it or not. You know, um, in that
No,
in your
because
case,
human interaction and connection is important.
oh, it's huge. It's huge, and it's something that I don't believe happens enough today. So, um, but like to kind of answer my own question when we were talking about like why music is so, you know, damn special. It's because for me personally, man, is that it's the only medium that I feel like you get instant like gratification and fulfillment, like you were talking about. But it's the thing that makes you feel alive instantly. I love the art of making movies. I love storytelling, right? I went to school for it. But even that is a slow burn, right? And a song into its right can be a slow burn, but in more of like a 6, 7 minute punch, right? That would be a slow burn type of song. One of those.
It's 6, 7 minutes. That's exaggerating. It's
Well,
like
I'm talking
two and a
those
half
old
to
school
four.
like Queen songs, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm
But
there.
today you get it in more of a 3 minute package. But like at a concert, you can play around with that. And that music just makes you feel alive, man. And there's unlike any medium like it. And that for me personally, and that's why I kind of thought you probably shared some of those same things, is that there's just nothing like it. And that's why you do it for free. Or you
Of
would do it
course,
for free.
and well, I mean, I do and done hit for free. So like, it comes back to like the whole like live performance conversation, like, I am a fan of music. Whether I was 15 at my first show or like 37 and I force myself to be like, I don't feel like going out. And I go somewhere and go like, holy shit, like how ripping was that? Like that was awesome. You leave and you're there with like this feeling that's just like you can't explain. Like I, I can honestly tell you this. I don't know one person genuinely that has ever said to me, I just don't like music. It might be the only thing people can agree on.
Something that
They
makes you
like
scared.
music,
You know,
sound. It could be anything. It's music. They
you're right.
like it.
They like it. Well, it's interesting because I have came across people. I guess my question isn't necessarily like you're right. You've never found anybody that doesn't like music, but I have found people
No,
that
they might have terrible music taste in your opinion, but like
yes.
they like music.
And then you're like you question whether or not they like music. That's the problem, right? But you're right. You're right.
Yeah, of course.
I tend to say like how can you not feel it the same way because there's an energy that comes from it. You know, there's a whole vibe, not just the concerts, but like when you're driving in your car late at night and the perfect song hits at the perfect time and it can help you reflect or look forward or make decisions in your life because it is somehow motivated you to do so. You know, maybe not always for the right things. It can do it the opposite way too. But like, yeah, there's just something that has this kinetic energy that just transfers into people so fast.
The
It's
the
crazy.
the closest thing we will see to, and this is my opinion, you may disagree, to
Okay.
the new music is a meme because
Oh,
someone will read it and go, I feel heard. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it
wow.
is.
You're right. So one day I'll be in the Metropolitan Museum someday, and I'll see just a framed meme on the wall, huh?
Just a framed meme. And there's an artist weirdly behind that too. We
There
just
is.
don't get it yet.
You just don't get it. You're absolutely correct, man.
It's crazy.
Uh, so
This
you're
is what I mean. Like I really think about these
dude,
things.
so do I. So do I. I had a buddy on the show that said that there was he's a film critic, and he said that he was watching this one movie where this actress, there's an 8 minute pie eating scene where she eats the entire pie. But the whole scene is just one shot watching her eat this pie. And I said, man, that
That's kind of
is,
like genius. It's kind of genius.
that's what he said. I said, that is absolutely dog shit. He's like, no, it's genius because it tortures you as a viewer. That was the point.
I mean, it's terrible, but it's like, as silly as it sounds, it's like the Family Guy scene where Peter says "ow" for like 30 seconds straight, and you
Yeah.
go, "I'm still waiting for when this will break."
Well, it's kind of like when Peter's trying to get that dead frog out of the house too, and he's got the box and he's trying to drag it up the windowsill, and he just can't. It just keeps
That's
going.
because because sadly, that's like, at least to me, like a human feeling where you're like, how fucking long is this gonna take before it like, before I feel
Transitions
not
to the next
fulfilled, but
scene.
like,
Yeah.
or not even like I'm talking in personal life where you're like you try to pick up like a very flat object on concrete and you're like doing this, like that's real.
You're right. And that is where the genius comes in because in your real life, when you're doing that, you would never actually, think that other people go through this, but other people have experienced that same thing.
Yes, or like dropping a guitar pick inside of the acoustic guitar,
That is the worst thing
which is
ever.
another Family Guy thing, but like I'm using like the making myself sound very unintellectual, but
Right.
these are the things I witness and I go like, I get that.
Uh, and it's what the genius of the show is, man. Um,
Yeah.
you had used the term, and I thought was interesting. You used instead of happiness, you talked about fulfillment. Did you know
Yeah.
that you did that? Is there a reason you did that? Because it is a crucial difference that I'm learning at my age right now. That I don't think I'm in pursuit of happiness. I think I'm in pursuit of fulfillment. What are your thoughts on that?
I think for me, happiness is very like momentarily.
Sure.
fulfillment is long term,
Yeah.
you know. So I think you could be happy saying like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat 25 Big Macs, and 1 second later you're like, I hate myself. Fulfillment would be like, you know what I haven't had in a while? And like looking for the best place that delivers that.
Right.
Again, maybe a bad analogy, but like
No, dude.
that's
No,
how I see it.
but that's the way. That's kind of what I've learned. I don't know if you've listened to any Jordan Peterson or anything, but he kind of talks about that a little bit. And I have.
I'm terrible, by the way, with like motivational stuff and podcasts. It's because I'm very in my own head,
Oh
and I
no,
probably think I think I'm a lot more intellectual than I probably am. So I just listen to myself talk to myself, which is a
no.
lot of what my music is. That's what my music's about.
But that's the thing, is that to get it from your head onto the paper and then to find out that people relate to it. That's the whole
That's what
thing, right?
to bring this back like a good comedian. Toxic positivity is that conversation.
It is.
That's what it is. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very much that.
Well, that's why with me personally, man, like when I heard that for the first time, that's why when you used it, I didn't know if you did it on purpose or not. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because when I heard that for the first time, this idea of
Feel free,
fulfillment.
by the way, to ask me like any of these questions music related, because that's like how I really understand how to
Yeah.
respond,
No,
if that
dude.
makes sense.
Well, I was actually gonna go a different route with your fulfillment. I was gonna ask you about your personal,
Good.
because you had mentioned that you don't have children. Are you in a relationship? Do you is that something that you want? Is that something that you steer away from because of the lifestyle that you currently have? I mean, talk to me there a little bit.
I think I uh, yearn for that full time connection. I think I've fortunately have experienced it in short form,
Sure.
and unfortunately, because I'm so either self obsessed or self aware,
Yeah.
very fine line,
Yeah.
that it's caused those things to live a shorter life than maybe they should have.
Yeah.
But, you know, something I pride myself on is being aware of myself. And something I also pride myself on is like realizing I'm very unaware of myself. Because people that are like, oh, I'm woke,
Right. Right.
they're the least, in my opinion, awake to themselves.
No, you're
So
right.
I go like, I understand it, but I don't at all. So yeah,
Do you
I
ever?
would love this,
Sorry, Sergio.
this.
I was gonna ask you.
No, go ahead.
To interrupt there. I was gonna see. Do you ever feel like you've because this is the thing with because I like to think that I'm an intellect as well, right? But
Yeah,
sometimes we
I
can be
don't think I'm
so
an intellect. I think I'm just aware. It's
well
somewhat
aware,
aware.
but that's step one. That's really step one to the whole thing, is like
Hmm.
being self-aware. And then, I mean, we talked about the empathy, but like trying to get the information, make sure the information is correct, yada yada. That to me is the biggest form of intelligence that you can have, is trying to get it right versus trying to be right. um
Of course.
but when you talk about this idea of because you were self-aware, it might have been the detriment to those things. Do you ever worry that sometimes you're so far into the forest that you can't see the trees, type thing?
100%.
Okay.
I am, I, I say this jokingly, but like at the same time, like very much, again, aware of it. I'm in the weeds. You know what I mean? And personally, I don't really think anybody's not in the weeds. And if you're so far out of the weeds, like you're just kind of back in the weeds. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like
For
there's
sure.
got to be some blur for you to like kind of like focus out of. Does that make sense? Like,
No, dude, totally. Totally. It goes back to what you were
you
saying
know,
with the woke community. That woke community, it's good that people are putting pressure on things that really should be non-negotiables. That I agree with. But woke
yeah,
community has taken it a step further, and now they've almost, instead of being this so woke that they're individualized, they're actually conforming to an idea versus which is the counterpoint to the whole thing. So I don't know. I totally understand your analogy that you were getting at earlier because I totally see it the same way.
And again, like I teeter that line by saying like, well, who am I to like even comment on that? You know what I mean? It's just I kind of go like this. I go, again, if you try your best to be kind and understanding and not overly push your ideals on like people and what makes someone happy who's hurting no one,
Right.
then great. But it's when you're so, you know, overly indulgent in that thought that like your ability to be eye opened and able to see things others can't, that you need to like force that view, that I'm just kind of like, here we go. You know,
Right. And
not
that
to upset
does
anybody. It's
that
the
deserves
same
some
as
pushback.
thought as that like religious freak that like walks up to you when you're standing minding your own business and is like telling you the craziest shit you've ever heard.
Hmm.
I'm the guy that just listens.
Yeah.
I might not agree with any of it, but I try to at least just
You make
just
him
listen.
you make him feel heard. Sergio Nello, you make him feel heard. That's very good, man. You know, it's funny
Uh,
because Jim Carrey says that at the end of the day, us making sound really just as important. Because as humans, us making sound and making others feel our or hear our sound, that is all you really need.
we love this. I mean, we do. We love the sound of our own voices. We come on, who comes on a podcast that doesn't want to talk about their fucking views and shit and what they think and,
Right.
you name it. Like, it's all kind of hypocritical, but it's human nature,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a part of the human experience, man, for sure.
That's it. Like,
Well,
it
I was
doesn't
just gonna
hurt anyone to speak
no.
nicely again.
Sergio, I am losing you, man. Like your voice is as clear as ever. Your teeth are as bright as white as they can possibly
Oh
be, but
God.
you are
Can you
so
see me?
dark right now. It is
Should
so
I can move inside if that'll work.
well. Here's what I mean. I just so the viewers can see your beautiful face, man. I right now we just see the LA in your teeth.
And I have
got,
big teeth too.
they got dark quick, buddy. Um, while you're transitioning, I just wanted to ask you a few more. We'll just spend another 10 minutes here on the show if you don't mind, and then
Yeah, sure.
we'll kind of wrap it up. But
Do you want me to move into a lighter area? I could do that. That's not a big deal.
I think for the YouTube portion of it, yeah, I'd like you to if you don't mind.
All right, cool. Just bear with me. I'm gonna like hold a bunch of things. We'll talk and walk.
Actually, yeah, yeah, it looks like it's beautiful there.
It's I mean it's a gorgeous night. That's why I came outside. But you're right. It did get
I
very dark very quick. So
I didn't even
let me
realize how
just
dark it was until I was like, I don't even think I see his eyes
there we go. So I'm
anymore. Oh
just gonna
man,
pull this shit in real quick. Give me a sec.
guy's got a
If
beautiful
I drop,
ceiling.
oh, there we go.
There
It's
we
nice.
go.
I like to be outside because it's to me at least it's very very relaxing, especially when you do these sort of things.
Oh, easily, totally agree, man.
Oh, that's better. There we go. Oh, now the
Now the house
phone's
phone's
ringing.
calling. That's probably
Who was a
Dana.
house phone?
That's Dana
Oh,
trying to get on the show.
we're gonna hang that up. Hold on. Ah, can
Gotta
you see
love
me?
live
Okay.
entertainment, baby. Perfect. We can see it, man. You are in frame, and
Good.
you are good.
I'm back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here with Sergio Anello. He's the bassist of the Early November. We are also talking about his EP that is coming out on September 17th. And once again, I want to make sure I get this right. The Hodgepodge of modern furniture and antiques.
A
And
hodgepodge of modern furniture and antiques.
man,
Yes,
it's
it's a
such a
mouthful.
dude. It's a mouthful, but it's a fitting name because I was like, this kind of feels like this album to me. So I wanted to ask you.
There's a story behind it.
Yeah, let's hear it because I would love that. That's what I wanted to ask you. What's the story behind that title?
So as I was like putting these songs together, it was like a list of. Remember, I was telling you like they were like phone demos and all this and that, and I was like, it's kind of what you would call a hodgepodge of songs. And I have, for some sick reason, like when I use a word that's typically not in my vocabulary, I look it up and there's a definition obviously, and then like how to use it in a sentence.
Right.
And it was like, Joe's apartment is a hodgepodge of modern furniture and antiques. And I looked around me and I went, this is like what I'm living in. And I also said like, this is my brain. It's like very sleek in the sense like I have a set idea, and then there's also this like this, I sound crazy saying all this, this like these like thoughts that just arise, like these past images that like shouldn't be there anymore, that like kind of steer my, the
Yeah.
way I go about things in life. So like I jokingly was like, this is what I'm going to call it. And everybody was kind of like, I think you should. so, so I stuck with it. And it like you said, it felt very fitting to me.
I'm actually really glad I know the origin story of that now, because that was actually a really profound thing to say in order, or in, reflection of your EP, man. That you're right, because we are, as people, we are, especially as artists, you're trying to always kind of create something new, but you're
Yeah,
always pulling from your past, and it's like really the past that won't die, and it's these antiques that live on your shelves that are
of
constantly your
course.
reminders. Yeah, man, what a profound way of just a great title that you walked into.
And my parents' home, which I've been staying in for the past 2 years at this point, it's a very quaint little house, but like it's sleek and modern, but then there's like these legitimate like a lot of my music like kind of steers from this like 50s to like 70s
Yeah.
thing, and that's like what my mother's always kind of been into. Like um I don't know, it just kind of always played into like what I've done. Like I grew up on oldies and like Elvis and like Johnny Cash. It was like a mix of like doo-wop and country, and that's kind of how I've always written. So
Yeah,
it made sense.
when I was listening to the EP, it's funny. I can't. The guy's name I've lost it now, but um, I think it's REM. You kind of have the same tone to you as the lead singer of REM, but
Michael Stipe, wow.
yeah, and but your sound has a lot of Bob Dylan feel to it, and I don't know if that's on
Dude,
purpose or not, but
that's a big compliment, because like growing up, I didn't understand Bob Dylan. I'm not gonna be like that guy. It's like, oh yeah, Dylan's king. Like I'd always be like, this sounds like shit. And then as I got older, I was like, this guy's a fucking genius. Like it's like sushi, you know what I mean?
yep,
Like you can't taste sushi at 8 and appreciate it. Like
that's the
you have
whole
to have
point
an
of Bob
adult's
Dylan. Yeah,
taste,
yeah, you're right,
you
man. It's like
know?
Seinfeld, man. You can't like Seinfeld at 8. It's over your head.
It's just that sort of thing. And I never like was like, oh, I want to like write like Dylan. But because when people go like Beatles and Dylan and this and that are like my muse, it's like you're not gonna be Bob Dylan and you're not gonna be the fucking Beatles. Like
Right,
stop while you're ahead. Or you're just like asking for failure. But
right.
like it is good, I think, to like obviously respect something even if you don't understand it or love it.
But I think there's a
And
subconscious thing there's a subconscious thing that comes with it, though. It's like when you were a kid,
of
or even
course,
when you're your musical taste, you listen to these sounds that come in. Back to sounds, right? You come in and you're like, that sounds good, that doesn't, and you just kind of filter these things through your whole brain as your musical taste. And as you now are creating, you now echo those things. And your
I agree.
yeah,
And with me, when it comes to like my personal writing, like I've always been what people call like not music wise, but they'd be like, dude, you're a great storyteller. Like you tell a story, and so like when I write, I care about like what I'm saying and the melody versus like, does this sound catchy? You know what I mean? It
yes,
just happens to be, at least for what I think, like I write in a way that like I could tell a kind of like avant-garde story
Mm.
and still figure out how to like make it somewhat relatable and hooky at the same time.
Yeah, I was reading your bio on Spotify, and it says something to like the likes of like Shaky Graves and them, and I love Shaky Graves, but
Love Shaky Graves.
are you familiar with the tallest man on earth?
Mildly.
I think he does a very good job of telling his story, but finding the kind of catchy sound that can go with it, like almost like a Parker Mill sound
Yeah.
too. But there's just some really good. Check him out, man. Tallest man on earth, and it's kind of ironic because he's like 4'10". I think that's the whole point of the story. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
But Shaky Graves, one of my like when I started doing my own solo stuff, um, just love his ability to like storytell and write a song that's so very not like verse, chorus, bridge type of
structured,
song,
yeah,
and have it be so not only relatable but like entertaining throughout,
yes,
you know. So like that was a big thing. So like my last record that I did, I was kind of like listening a lot to his stuff at the time, and I don't know if you're familiar with like him and like Esme Patterson's stuff with like uh Big Time Nashville Star,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then what's
Okay,
what's the other one? I can't think of the name, but The House is Haunted.
I have both. Yeah, I have both of those on my playlist. So I just didn't realize that
So
a partner there. Okay,
but it was very like I was living in Nashville at the time. Every other week I was in Nashville for at least a couple days or a few weeks or a month, whatever it might be. And he was like that weird bridge to me going from like what I thought I wanted to do to like then what I was writing later on. So the more and more I just like listened to that stuff and then I put out that last record, then I kind of like, not to say like I didn't want to, you know, sound that way or whatever anymore, but it was very much like I'm finding my own, my own voice, for a lack of better terms, and like ability to tell a story in a different way, and just kind of like this whole thing. Like I said, it was so like out of the blue that there was no rules behind it. I didn't go into it being like this has to sound like this or this has to sound like that, and um, there's like mandolin on the record where I would have typically maybe like wanted to do strings, or like there's a
right.
lot more keys and there's like jazzy moments, but it's very like, I don't know, it's kind of like swanky in spots, but like surfy and,
That's the
you
thing though
know,
that I think a lot of people will be able to pull away from it though is that there's little moments for everybody in there, but it doesn't really lose that swinky feel to me. It doesn't really lose that what you're going for, that theme of the overall package. It doesn't lose that. So I
that's it.
I
I
thought it
mean,
was great.
I'm going to have my style at
Mhm.
the end of the day, but like, I want to tell a good story start to finish. And I think a lot of artists maybe do this where they want to have a collection of songs that make sense.
Right.
I try to write a record, or not try to write a record. I put a record together after writing it for the few people that are going to listen track one to track whatever it is
Right.
and go, oh, I get it. And it's up to them to interpret it. I'm not saying like think of it a
Yeah,
certain way.
you
It's
can't
just
rob people from that. That's doesn't
not at
even if you
all.
tried. Yeah, that's going to be their thing. So I guess to wrap this up here, man. Now that the EP is coming out September 17th, I know you've been living
Yeah.
at home with your parents, and life has been kind of weird for you. Oh, I gotta do this. He's gonna love this. I don't know. You're not gonna be able to see this, but D to the B, Bobby, he shouts out. We just put that up on the old ticker here. Dana Bolin, and he just shouted out the show here. I thought you would like that. Two Respect
Nice. That's
Podcast.
good.
Everybody, give it a check. Spotify, you can find it over there. Apple Podcast, the whole thing. Dude is killing it. But what I was going to ask you though is that Sergio, you said that life has been kind of weird for you. Are you going to now publicly start performing some of these, the EP in some venues in some places?
I think I would like to, but ultimately, like, prior to all this happening, I started playing solo a lot of times. And I got very comfortable with it. It was something I wasn't comfortable doing.
Right.
You know, you got to realize I came from being a bass player in a band to doing solo stuff, singing with a band, to then just like playing with an acoustic guitar. And it was very unfamiliar. But right before this, I was kind of forced into like an hour long set where I was in front of maybe like 10 or 12 people.
Oh wow.
And typically I would have freaked out. I would have been like, I can't do this. And I don't know, it came really, really comfortable to me. And the promoter was like, I got to have you back. This is like, again, not tooting my own horn. I just didn't expect that. He was kind of like, let me buy you a drink. You were great. You handled
Yeah.
it so well. And I was like, fucking crazy to me. Like, I thought you'd have been like, dude, sorry, you can't play no more. You know what I mean? It was just, it was weird. But I would like to play out, but I would like to, you know, as of now, pick and choose
Right.
and hopefully like give that full experience, but like do it in a collection of the records where it's not just like super drab or like,
No, but what
you
you're
know,
trying. Hang on, I gotta fix something here. There we go. No, but what you're trying to do is you are absolutely trying to put together a concert experience. You're trying to put together, a catalog of something that you can, that has a rise and a fall and, just the whole thing, just like a human experience we talked about earlier on the show. So, you,
I'm very inspired by Jack White, how he has the ability to play like White Stripes songs and then like
yeah,
what's the record Lazaretto, I think it's called,
I
and
love
then
that.
like folky stuff. Like I think that's cool, and it's never perfect, which is even better. It's like chaotic, and I just love that kind of vibe.
Well,
Big inspiration for me.
but you know what I think that is though is I think it's because you are not one thing, Sergio Anello. You are multiple things, right? You like multiple
I'm
sounds.
a chameleon of sorts.
Yeah, but we are as people, whether we admit it or not. I think too often we
Yeah.
try to pigeonhole our lives into these one things of ideologies when in reality that's not who we are. Um,
No, I can't. I can't do it. It'll cripple me mentally in the sense like I'll lose it. Like I almost don't want any of my records, as silly as it sounds, to be like the one. I'd
right.
rather build some sort of like fan base around it entirely. So like again, I'm not like pigeonholed to doing one thing or the other. I could kind of like I could explore. It's I mean nobody wants to be told what to do, you know.
No.
I
And
just want people to care a little bit enough to go play it out and have people show up. So
what kind of support do you get from your bandmates? Do they have solo projects of their own? Are you guys all supportive there, or were they kind of like, I don't know, man, it's we don't want you to get your own brand versus
no, no, no,
support the
no.
whole?
So like we've always been, you know, very supportive of one another. Like Ace came out with I Can Make a Mess, and then Ace Enders and a million different people, and I'm sure he's put stuff out under his own name in the early November and you name it. And then Jeff, who plays drums, has done solo work. Um, Joe manages a lot of really good bands and has played in bands like Hello Goodbye.
Oh, I
So
love
like
them. Yeah.
everybody's done like a lot of stuff, and you know I've been lucky enough to like be in this world with these guys and like either tour with their other bands or like tour with the solo stuff or just you know be a good friend and get to hear stuff. It's nice, but everybody's always like really really supportive, and I think at the end of the day, you know, whether we're playing shows together or touring or whatever, like we always check in and we're loving and I mean, look, it's family at the end of the day. You're gonna butt heads when you're living in a car together for two
Right.
months, but like,
Especially
you
when they're
know,
opinionated like you, right, Sergio?
I think one thing I will give us all is we know when to shut the fuck up and just kind of roll with the punches, which is nice.
Well, I'll say this, man. You don't get 20 years of friendship or 20 plus years of friendship without knowing how to navigate those waters. So,
Of
ladies and
course.
ladies and gentlemen, I've been absolutely blessed to be sitting here today talking with Sergio Anello. Like I said, bassist of Early November. He's got his own EP out, a hodgepodge of modern furniture and antiques. It's coming
You
out
got it.
September 17th. Sergio, where will people be able to get that? Where can they find you on what social media platforms? I'm going to give you the kind of the last 30 seconds and then I'll wrap us up, buddy.
Okay, so you could find me on Instagram at Sergio_Anello. That'll have like my links. If you look my name up on any sort of platform where you could download music or Google me, you'll find my stuff. We're going to be doing all the pre-sale stuff through Sunday Drive Records, so you could check them out as well. And if you get confused, you could literally just message me and I answer everybody. So I could navigate it for you.
All right. All right. Well, look for that. I hope for continued success, man, for both the band, yourself, continued health.
Thank you.
I hope for continued health for not just yourself physically, but mentally, man. Make peace with this pandemic and what's going on. And, brother, I thoroughly enjoyed the hour and a half that we just spent talking, man.
I can't believe it's been that long. I had a great time.
All right, everybody. Bobby Talks, dot, dot, dot. You know why those dots are there. We will see you guys down the road. Peace out.